You're listening to the Webinar Hustlers Entrepreneur Podcast, episode 42.
Want to work less and sell more? Welcome to the Webinar Hustlers Entrepreneur Podcast, the podcast to help you scale up and take your business to the next level with webinars that sell for you. Each episode focuses on the money mindset, online marketing, and sales strategies to get you more leads and convert leads to sales, all with webinars. And now your host, business and webinar strategist, April Reed.
Okay, so in this episode, I want to go through page 2 of my freebie of the Ultimate Webinar Checklist because I really want you to be able to host your webinar within the next 28 to 30 days. And so if you have this checklist, you can follow along, but if not, you can download that freebie PDF at www.aprilreed.com/webinar-checklist. Okay, so let's hop over to page 2, which is the first page after the cover photo. And this page is all about planning. It's all about getting ready for your webinar and making sure you have all the equipment that you need. So I'm just going to go right down the checklist. If you don't know what I'm talking about, pick up that checklist at www.aprilreed.com/webinar-checklist. And you can always hop over to the show notes and click on the link there. All right. So the first thing you want to do is figure out a webinar date. Now, benchmarks or industry standards say that the hottest days to host a webinar is Wednesday and Thursday, which Wednesday being first, and then Thursday coming in a close second. Now, depending on which resources you look to, some say that Tuesday is running a close second. But what they seem to all agree upon is that Wednesday is the number one day to host your webinar. So, what's the best day to host your webinar? Well, the answer is whenever your audience is available. Okay, so that may be Wednesday. That might be Monday. It could be Friday. It really boils down to when you know your audience is going to be available and active and live. But knowing these benchmarks that Wednesday and Thursday and Tuesday are the most popular, it's good to know in case you have no idea. So if you have no idea and you're just starting out, then definitely try to schedule your webinar on a Wednesday. And if you can't do Wednesday, then Thursday or Tuesday seem to be percentage-wise pretty close, followed by Monday, and coming in pretty dead last is Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. Okay, same thing with the time. We're just going right down the checklist. So the next is to come up with the webinar time. Again, benchmarks or industry standards say that 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern is the best time to host your webinar. But you have to look at your audience. If your audience are corporate women, do you really think they have time to watch your webinar at 1 p.m. Eastern? Do they really want to watch a 30 to 60-minute webinar over their lunch? So in those situations, if you are targeting women that work during the day or men who work during the day, you might need to schedule your webinar in the evenings. Again, test this out. And if you don't have a clue and you're just starting out, then follow the benchmarks. So when are you going to host your webinar? I would say Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern to start. Okay, now you need to decide on your webinar platform. Now, there are so many platforms out there, and I'm just going to list a few, but what platform you decide to go with, it's going to fall under your budget, and it's going to fall under what type of webinar you want to use, because there's live webinars, there's on-demand webinars, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so Steph Seminars. If you never heard of Steph Seminars, I would say Steph Seminars are probably best for on-demand or automatic webinars. So an automatic webinar is when maybe you're using Facebook ads and you're driving traffic to a landing page, and once they land on your landing page, the potential customer or the audience or whatever you want to call them have the option to choose what day and time they want to watch the webinar. And usually these are recurring every hour, on the hour, And so it doesn't really matter when they land on the landing page because the next webinar is always going to be within the next hour. So Steph Seminars is really good at that. There's probably other webinars that can handle the same demand, but I'm hearing that Steph webinar so far is the best. Okay. Now there's GoToWebinar. Now GoToWebinar is great for live webinars, and that's who I use to host my webinars. In addition to GoToWebinar, I also use Zoom webinars, and I love them both. I love Zoom and I love GoToWebinar. Now GoToWebinar is pretty pricey. Actually, it's probably the most expensive option out there. So you might definitely want to try out Zoom. And as far as I've heard, Webinar Jam is probably the least expensive option out there. I do not validate or back up Webinar Jam. I'm sorry. I just hear too many problems with it. I've never used it. I've been on webinars where the host was using Webinar Jam and they always crash. Now, the automated webinar seems to be okay, but as far as live webinars go, they've always crashed. So I can't put them out there as a viable platform for webinars. But I mean, obviously they must be doing something right. Otherwise, I mean, why would they still be in business? But from what I hear, they're just not that good. Sorry. Okay. So there's also Webinar Ninja. I've tried Webinar Ninja. I like that platform as well. There's Easy Webinar. And if you're looking for a free option, there's YouTube Live. Okay. Now, the only thing with YouTube Live is that YouTube Live doesn't have a chat feature. So if you want to be able to chat with your attendees, you're going to need to get an external chat. And an example of that would be like Chartwing or something. Okay, moving on down to your email marketing service provider. So there's a ton of options here too, but I'm just going to go with the ones that I know about. And probably my number one when it comes to just functionality and pricing is going to be ConvertKit. Yes, MailChimp is free, but I really, really, really love ConvertKit. I really do. It's a lot easier to use than MailChimp. MailChimp might be free, but oh my goodness, I had to build a funnel with MailChimp and it was crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I definitely love ConvertKit. And I believe at this time, well, you know what? At the time of this recording, they changed their name. Now, if you go to their website, it might still say ConvertKit, but they changed their name to, I don't really remember what they changed their name to. Something totally different, like Crafts or something like that. But yeah, so they totally changed their branding. Again, there's MailChimp. It's free. So if you're like trying to host a free webinar, then your options are going to be YouTube Live and MailChimp. There's also Drip. Now, Drip is from the people who created Lead Pages. I love Lead Pages, and I'll talk about Lead Pages a little later. There's Aweber. I started my business with Aweber, and then I switched from Aweber to ConvertKit. I've also tried Drip. Drip is very robust, but I found it also challenging to put together. And then there is Infusionsoft. Now, Infusionsoft is huge, a huge, huge, huge platform that it just doesn't do email marketing. It does so much more, but I haven't used it per se. But it's definitely something I want to work myself too, because I was at a presentation and Infusionsoft is a badass. Now, speaking of badass, Kartra. So have you heard of Kartra? Kartra. They seem to be coming up as a contender for Infusionsoft and ConvertKit and all the others. Now, I have done a 14-day trial with Kartra, and I had to say it was pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing. I mean, it pretty much took most of the thinking out for you. But this is another platform that is a bit of a learning curve. So if you haven't tried Kartra, definitely try it out. Sign up for their 14-day trial. You're going to be amazed too. I didn't stick it out with them just because I know ConvertKit. So Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know, right? Okay, let's move it on down to registration pages, confirmation pages, thank you pages. I use lead pages and I love lead pages. Now, that is not a free option. So if you're still trying to stick with free, I do know MailChimp allows you to create landing pages, though they're not that good. And if you're trying to, stick with something that's cheaper, even like ConvertKit, you can create your own landing pages. But come on, people, we're building a business here. You can't go completely free. You have to invest in something. So I'm telling you, if you want to host a free webinar, at least invest in lead pages because they are the bomb.com, okay? For your registration and your confirmation pages. Well, actually, that's the same thing, register and confirmation, whatever. Go with lead pages. And I love the feature where it tells you how many unique views you've had on your registration page versus those who actually opted in. Like, I love that. I don't have to go to Google Analytics and figure it out. Lead pages automatically tells you how many people landed on your landing page and then how many people actually opted in and how many people actually landed on your thank you page, which should be the same as the number of people who opted in. Okay, so from there is your microphone. Now, your laptop, if you're using a laptop, probably comes with a microphone, but I'm going to stress in purchasing an external microphone so that your voice is crisp and clear. Now, I don't know about you, but my pet peeve is not being able to hear somebody clearly and effectively. And if I can't hear you clearly and effectively, my mind tends to wander and drift off and I don't pay attention anymore. So I need to have that clear connection and that clear sound. So same thing with a webinar. People aren't necessarily looking at you, though I do advise hopping on, showing your face, saying hello, letting them know it's a real person, and then going to your slides. But to keep that attention, you have to sound enthused. You have to sound clear. You're going to lose them if you sound all choppy because your microphone is too low or too whatever. Okay, so here are some microphones that I suggest you get. Blue Yeti is what I'm using right now. Although I tend to see how the Blue Yeti after some time kind of makes like I don't know what it is. It's just some kind of a sound that it picked up after months. A sound that shouldn't be there, especially not with me purchasing in the first year. So I don't even know why I'm telling you to purchase a Blue Yeti. Like when I first bought it, it was exceptional. It was awesome. I love it. But that extra like sound that it makes, it tends to be something common around the Blue Yeti microphone. So hopefully they fix that. I mean, I really love it other than that. So I guess that's why I'm using it and I am saying you should get it. But if that freaked you out, not to worry. There's the ATR 2100, which is about $40 to $50, a lot more cheaper than the Blue Yeti microphone. And that tends to have a really good sound as well. I'm also going to recommend the Hio PR40 mic. Now that's a microphone that's like $300. That's where I'm heading toward, the granddaddy of microphones per se. But that mic has exceptional sound. And here are some other options: the Blue Snowball mic or the Blue Snowflake microphone. So those are some viable options for you there. Now, the next thing on the checklist is webcam. This is something that's optional. You don't have to have a webcam to host a webinar. People are coming there to see your slides anyway. But as I mentioned earlier, I feel it's more personable when you hop on a webinar just to let them see your face, to wave, say hi, and to welcome people hopping on your webinar. It gives it more of a personal feel. And even hopping back on for the Q&A, even if it's just a small picture in the corner where they can actually see you, and then you're still showing your presentation that has your offer. So definitely optional, but I highly recommend that you do that. And if you're going to invest in a webcam, the webcam that I use is the Logitech C90. It's HD with the 1080p. And so this is definitely a viable option. And make sure you don't necessarily need a tripod. You can hook it on top of your monitor, but I'm using a tripod for mine. All right. Last but not least, thing you want to look to purchasing is graphics. So I love using Canva, Photoshop, and something I recently learned is Relay That. So I'm loving Relay That. I tend to gravitate toward Canva a lot more. It's just something I use more, so I work through it faster. But the two platforms I'm using the most interchangeably is Photoshop and Canva. And then there's also PicMonkey. I haven't used PicMonkey, but I heard it's another viable option as far as your graphics. Why do you need graphics? Well, you need them for your slide deck. You need them for your social media promo posts. You need them for maybe you're creating a blog post, so you need like a banner because you're going to drive traffic to your blog post that's talking about your webinar. So we definitely need good graphics here, and Canva, Relay That, PicMonkey, and Photoshop are the way to do it. Okay, so once you have all that together, you're ready to go and start working towards your webinar. Now, some of these things are going to take time to get, such as if you don't have the microphone and you go to Amazon.com to order it, that's going to take some time to come through the mail. Unless you have Prime, then it only takes a couple of days. But start thinking about these things. Some of these webinar platforms, you're probably going to want to test, and they offer like a 14-day or a 30-day trial. So in that retrospect, you probably don't want to just jump off and start getting a webinar platform yet. Wait until maybe a week before you host your webinar to sign up for one of these platforms or a couple of these platforms if you have like no experience with webinar platforms at all, and test through them to see which one you like. And if it's a 30-day trial, that gives you plenty of time to test. All right, fantastic, awesome. This has been a great episode. Hopefully this helps, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Hey, you. Have you been liking this podcast and all the webinar strategies that you're receiving? Well, I want to tell you about my new membership site. Maybe you're just a coach, consultant, or other service-based business owners like a VA or a graphic designer, and you really want to add webinars into your marketing mix so that you can sell your high-ticket coaching program or your high-ticket offers. The top 3 things that I hear from coaches, consultants, and service-based business owners is that they don't know what to teach on the webinar, so they're struggling with learning what their topic is going to be. They are technophobes, so they're scared about all the tech, and webinars seem complicated. Well, I'm happy and proud to say that the new membership site is going to address all 3 of those issues and a whole lot more. So if you're looking for the support and the accountability that you need to finally get your webinar in front of the eyes of hundreds and even thousands at an affordable price, then go to www.aprilreed.com/waitlist. Enrollment is open only 2 times per year. So what are you waiting for? And I can't wait to see you there.
Thanks for listening to the Webinar Hustlers Entrepreneur Podcast at www.aprilreed.com.